probably around 15 years old when I first encountered Howard Arkley, the Australian artist, at the Melbourne exhibition buildings, and doing graffiti then as well. And it really resonated with my world and what the process was in terms of creating a graffiti piece and looking at this piece of art that was valued and part of a landscape, and knowing that hey, this is something I could possibly do with the skills I've got. I was breaking it down, breaking the medium down, and so that always stayed in my head until I got a bit older, and then I wanted to know more about him. He was this amazing individual that was also immersed in another subcultures and St Kilda and the art scene, as well as music and punk scene and early Melbourne scenes like that. And what I'd done with graffiti I couldn't recreate in a gallery context because there's only certain individuals that can do that. But I could then, that was when I started thinking about stylistically and the personal narratives that I've got through my family and the history there, and about Aboriginal history in Australia and contemporary society, and how these issues I could discuss them through art. Maybe I could create an artwork from this idea and concept that to use a Rolls-Royce from when I was born, so around 1974, and the body shape, they're quite a nice looking vehicle. The car for the project is a 1973 Rolls-Royce Corniche. I had this idea based on an image and some stories I'd heard, and some stories about some early pastoralists in the early part of the 20th century, so early 1900s. There was one particular guy in the Riverina that had a massive property and used to drive around an old roller. It just always resonated with me and stuck in my head that such a bizarre, very colonial and very bizarre choice of vehicle for a very rural regional area, and it's a symbol of wealth and power and colonialism, and at the same time a lot of Aboriginal people that had been displaced and forcibly removed and then later enslaved on some of these pastoral stations and large missions. The idea with the video too is to have this car reclaimed with my artwork and some symbols, urban style camouflage with a geometric camouflage on it. And this is about identity and me taking a symbol that is traditionally the Kamilaroi people, so that's my family area. In a military sense, camouflage is relating to concealing and hiding and blending away, and in my sense it's about being visible. So I'm reusing it in a different context to promote visibility, promote identity, promote culture, and then putting it on this symbol of colonialism and power and wealth, and then taking it back up north to some areas near where my grandmother, who brought me up as a young boy and was very instrumental in my life and a very important figure, a very strong woman who survived amazing trauma in terms of being taken away from her family at the age of 8 and rehoused on missions and enslaved and things like that. So it was more about this personal journey of me returning to an area near where she was born, and Kamilaroi people would do these massive sand engravings and dig out the earth and do these beautiful sculpted geometric formations, and there'd be men's and women's esoteric ceremonies. And then after that, they'd wipe it over to a very ephemeral nature. So it was more about this personal journey of me returning to an area near where she was born, and it's a road trip. You know, I'm referencing all these other movies from the past, and I'm, you know, from the city. I've got this urban background. My notions of concepts of initiation and ideology around culture come from that urban perspective. It's from what I know, and that's what this work's about. You know, it's about a return, a very personal, emotional return to country, but then leaving again. You know, leaving my mark, creating my own sand engravings in the form of burnouts. The training was really significant because it showcases the diversity of contemporary Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander art. You know, it's every few years it's, you know, changing, and, you know, there's more artists coming along, and current artists are evolving, and it showcases the, you know, the important diversity of our culture and identity. I mean, so often people lump, you know, Aboriginal art into one defined, you know, stereotyped culture or identity or art form, and when it's not. You know, there's over 300 language groups in Australia, each with diverse practices, cultural practices, art forms, religious practices, you know, patrilineal, matrilineal societies. So it's important that these communities get, you know, represented too.